Picture a midweek morning, an HVAC fault alarm, a forced door alert, 3 vendor health pings, and an aging UPS flag. Phones light up across the building. Tenants call the front desk. Nobody can agree which alert to act on first. Chaos and a preventable outage brewing. Welcome to Built, Wired, and Secured. I'm Alex Morgan. Today, we're unpacking telemetry debt, when too much data becomes an operational liability, not an advantage. Joining me is Michael Harrington to walk through what causes it and what teams can actually do this week to fix it. Ready to jump in, Michael?
Absolutely. That opening is all too familiar. Tenants feel this before ops teams ever get the chance to explain what happened. The key question I always ask is, what breaks if this goes down? That frames every telemetry decision.
Right. And the surprising part is that the data is available. It's the signal quality that's missing. So where does telemetry debt actually come from? Is it mainly vendors spamming alerts, or are we missing organizational choices?
It's both. Vendors ship default alerts at high verbosity, every sensor and status bit flagged, because that looks like capability. At the same time, retention settings keep months of raw logs nobody reviews. Then ownership is fuzzy. Is IT responsible for those network pings, facilities for HVAC chimes, or the vendor for everything? Finally, there's often no triage workflow.
Hold on. Give me one quick vendor default example, so listeners can picture it.
Sure. A badge reader may report a low RSSI every 5 minutes. The vendor marks it as a warning and sends a crawl of logs. Multiply that by a few hundred readers and you have hundreds of warnings daily. Most are transient and harmless, but they bury the real failures.
Right, so defaults plus volume equals noise. But we can't just prune everything. There's a trade-off between quieting the inbox and losing early warning signs.
Exactly. Start with risk. Ask which signals, if missed, would create tenant impact, safety issues, or extended outages. Those stay intact. Everything else can be rolled up, sampled, or delayed. But, and this is important, you need a way to escalate when context changes.
And that escalation piece is often the missing glue. What low-effort strategies actually reduce noise without a multi-month project?
3 things that move the needle fast. Sensible alert thresholds so you know what's a blip versus a trend, an ownership matrix with explicit first responders, and tiered retention. Keep full fidelity for critical systems and compress or sample the rest.
Can we unpack the ownership matrix quickly? A one-liner on who owns what and how deep that ownership goes.
Ownership is simple on paper. Map alert categories to a primary owner, a secondary, and the vendor. Crucially, include the first 3 actions the primary takes: verify, contain, and escalate if needed. That prevents alerts from ping-ponging between teams.
Quick reactions help here. So the first 3 steps triage, what do those look like in practice?
Step 1. Verify. Can you reproduce the alert or check a single confirming data point? Step 2. Identify ownership. Who's the primary contact and who's on call next? Step 3. Contain. Take the smallest action that reduces tenant impact while you investigate. If containment fails, escalate to the vendor with a packaged set of logs.
Right. That minimizes unnecessary handoffs. I do want to raise a point of friction I see in the field. Teams often resist pruning telemetry because they fear losing data for post-incident forensics. Is that a real blocker or a convenient excuse?
I'm not sure I buy that for every system. Forensics is important, but it doesn't mean you need identical retention everywhere. Tiered retention solves this. Keep detailed logs for systems with high forensic value, and sample or compress logs for low-risk devices. A targeted pilot usually settles leadership concerns.
So pilot, document the decisions, and measure the outcomes. That makes sense. Speaking of measurement, what metrics matter so teams know a cleanup is actually working?
Track mean time to meaningful action rather than just mean time to acknowledge. Count repeated alerts per device and monitor tenant impact events. How many tenant calls correlate with alert storms? After a successful cleanup, you'll see fewer repetitive alerts, faster containment times, and fewer tenant escalations.
Give me a quick win story.
One real cleanup that delivered measurable results.
On an anonymous campus, we saw 1,200 daily alerts across access control and HVAC, 2-week pilot, ownership matrix, adjusted thresholds, and reduced debug retention for non-critical devices. Alerts dropped by about 70%, and mean time to meaningful action fell from 4 hours to under 90 minutes. Tenants called less, and the operations team could focus on real problems.
Nice. And another quick example that shows a human benefit?
A managed office portfolio had vendors blasting facilities teams at 2 a.m. We added a delay and confirm rule for transient sensors. If an alarm clears within 5 minutes, no ticket. That halved the midnight wake-up calls with 0 missed outages. Staff well-being improved, and tenants stopped calling the property manager at 3 a.m., a surprisingly big win.
Half the midnight calls gone. That alone sells the pilot. For listeners ready to act, what are 3 priority actions they can start this week?
1. Run a 7-day audit of alert volume and map who touches each alert. 2. Agree on retention windows for critical versus non-critical telemetry and document the rationale. 3. Create a 1-page triage playbook with the first 3 steps and test it on a single building or system.
Those are quick, measurable, and low friction, exactly what teams need to get leadership buy-in. We've put a telemetry debt checklist and a pilot template on our site to help listeners run a clean, measurable first run.
One last note. Don't talk about turning off alarms. Talk about making alarms useful. That framing keeps the conversation focused on tenant experience, uptime, and measurable outcomes, rather than convenience.
Great final point. Quick recap. Audit alert flows, set retention tiers, and adopt a 1-page triage playbook. Visit the Built Wired and Secured page at builtwiredsecured.com for the telemetry debt checklist and a 1-page pilot template to get started. That wraps up this episode of Built, Wired, and Secured. Today we explored how telemetry debt turns useful data into operational drag and why cleaning it up delivers faster responses and fewer tenant impacts. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us. Until next time, make sure the systems you're responsible for are built to last, wired with intention, and secured for the real world.